You ready, James?
Always.
All right. And we're live. This is going to be the best talk of all of them because I'm going to be the main host and not Michael Sky. Michael Sky is the guy in the top in the dark corner you see over there. He's in Africa, and the power has gone out, and he's hoping that we'll do it all right. When these things happen in Africa, they say TIK. This is Kenya. That's where he's at. I'm in Medellin, Colombia. Internet is good here. This is our last conversation of the summit, Calling All Men. I'm the host, Hans Comijn, with Michael Sky, and today our last guest is a very special guest, and we're gonna talk to him a little bit about mainly man's issues. I want to hear a little bit about his story, his personal story with men, with father, and how it affected or how it helped him get into his work. Then we'll ask him a little bit about his work. The title of today is Dangers of the Black Pill and how to thrive in the modern dating world. If you're watching on one of my channels, come to Facebook Calling All Men, Facebook /Calling All Men, as you see on the screen, Calling All Men Summit, and you can like and leave comments there because that's the only way we will see your face. So if you want to interact with us, go there. What else? James, welcome to being part of this gathering of men. And where are you at right now?
Thank you, Hans, and thank you, Michael, Ghostly Michael, for having me. I'm currently at my farm in Portugal.
Oh, there you go. Michael usually has a bio lined up. I don't have it, but I know James as a heavyweight in the dating scene, and I know of his work since many years, dating back to I remember him being in Hungary. Met him in Bucharest, and I know that he's spending time a lot in Portugal. How would you introduce yourself? Oh, there we go.
He's back.
Do you have the bio lined up of James?
Yeah, of course I do. Hey guys, a little bit of a power outage here in Kenya. It happens from time to time. This is Africa, and this is an international men's summit. All right, James Marshall is a men's dating, lifestyle, and sexuality coach and founder of the Natural Lifestyles. For over 15 years, he's trained men around the world in practical dating strategies, natural style selection, as well as working to build core masculine confidence and overcome social anxiety. His teachings integrate holistic personal change through practical meditation, lifestyle overhauls, and no-nonsense dating techniques, as well as specializing in hands-on live sexuality training, including Tantra and BDSM. And I'm very curious if we're going to get a demo by a video here today. He runs live workshops throughout Europe and the US, as well as offering online training. James, welcome to Calling All Men.
Thank you very much. Just one slight correction. I think you said natural style selection. It was a natural style seduction is what I'm into.
Seduction.
Yes.
Yes.
Not natural selection. That's Darwinist stuff. That's different.
Yes. Well, you're doing natural seduction with women who have been naturally selected by evolution.
Yes.
James,
Indeed.
Would you mind just sharing with us what was your upbringing? Did you have a father present in your life? What was your kind of introduction into manhood, and eventually how did you become who you are today, doing the work you are today?
Well, we're getting personal straight away. We just go straight to childhood trauma. No, I did not have a father present. So my parents had a rocky divorce when I was about 5. I was primarily brought up by my mother in quite a difficult situation, like pretty impoverished. I was a very, very nerdy, dorky kid back in the 80s in Australia, which was a rough time in Australia. And so I used to get beaten up quite a lot because I was an opera singer and I played classical flute. So that was not cool and not okay where I was. So I was certainly punished for my kind of effeminate sort of interests. So yeah, I mean, not that I don't have a father. I actually have a decent relationship with him now, but during that period, I was certainly brought up without one, which I think is pretty common with especially my generation and the newer generations. Lots of us go through that. My kind of compensation, I guess, for that, or the way that I dealt with that, was by seeking out other types of mentors. And so initially I got pretty deeply into Chinese martial arts and spirituality and meditation at quite a young age. From about 16 onwards, I found a really amazing teacher and lineage. And so that became kind of my surrogate fathering, I guess, in the sense of learning to understand my masculinity and use my body and become strong and powerful. And that later on set that, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was setting the scene for my later on career choice to move into being a men's dating and sexuality coach, because a lot of the foundations that I learned while studying in Shaolin Temple and studying meditation, martial arts, tantra, all sorts of kind of spiritual shamanism, spiritual pursuits around the world, I eventually integrated those into my teaching capacities for men, showing them how to shift at core levels, how to use very practical meditation as opposed to, let's say, deep retreat styles of meditation, which I've also done a lot of, but dealing with the common anxieties and worthiness issues that so many men have in relation to women and in relation to their sense of self-worth. So yeah, I went on quite a long and wild journey, which led me through a lot of different things, from being a musician and performer, a one-time porn star, a massage therapist, martial arts teacher. And then around 2008 or so, I started doing dating coaching back when that was really in its infancy back in Australia. And at the time, the only things that were available or that was known about was the mystery method, the game kind of stuff, which I was aware of, but saw very well immediately that would not translate well to the Australian kind of culture. And I didn't want to be somebody who was memorizing weird scripts and trying to hypnotize women. So I went on a long journey of trial and error experimentation to see what would work in terms of meeting and dating lots of different women, and then gradually broke that down into frameworks which were teachable in the sense that they gave guys maps and methods, but without having prescriptive lines and scripts. So yeah, I started my business around then, and then spent a number of years really refining the teaching, brought in different specialists, different other coaches in inner game, in style overhauls, in night game, different aspects of seduction. And then eventually kind of blew up in Europe and moved the business over to Europe 2012, and been doing that ever since. And have also branched out into hands-on. And when I say hands-on, I mean hands-on sex training. So I run really high-end workshops where I have a team of sexy, open-minded girls, and a bunch of guys come in, and I teach them how to do everything from tantra through to BDSM, which is a pretty wild service that I've been offering for the last 5 or so years. And yeah, I kind of bounce around the planet. Like, I'm often based on my farm in Portugal, where my alter ego is I'm an olive farmer, because I love nature and ecology. And then when I get the call, I bounce around the planet teaching private one-on-ones and group workshops in both seduction, internal change, and sexuality. So that's in a nutshell, I guess.
Very cool. Hans and I were in Portugal a couple of years back, and we both got invited into the countryside to visit an old friend of mine. And yeah, it's a very idyllic place, and I have longings to go back. Yeah, we were in Lisbon, weren't we, Hans?
We're in Lisbon for a wedding.
Lisboa. Yeah, yeah. So, James, when I was checking out your latest project, and on your webpage, with your sexual mastery training. I don't have the name of it right now, but yeah, I was scrolling down through the website, and there were definitely images that were blurred out. So I was like, oh wow, James is really doing it. It's really hands on. I did not know that you were formerly in porn. How did you get into that?
Well, I was a one-time porn star. So I think when I was 26, so quite a long time ago, I'm 44 now. A friend of mine was an actor. He received an audition notice, and he was reading it at my place, and he said, "I think this is more your kind of thing." And there was an audition notice on some kind of actors website looking for adult performers for Australia's first and I think only high production porn movie, which was billed as kind of like a female erotica, right? So a movie that was for women. And it said no single males; they only wanted couples or females. But I read that it had like a description of the protagonist, who was this kind of arrogant, sexy rock star. And at the time, I was a musician. I'm like, that's me. I'm a bit arrogant, bit of a rock star in my own mind. And so I called them that had a mobile number. I called the director, it was a lady, and I said, listen, I don't have a girlfriend to star with, but you definitely want to meet me. I was a bit of a cocky little thing. And she said, all right, we'll come over. So I rode my bicycle over, came into this very large woman's house. And I said, all right, give me the script. And I read the script and I said, you want to see the package? And she said, yes. And then afterwards she said, all right, you're hired. And so suddenly, I remember like signing the contract and like realizing as I put pen to paper that this is the end of my like life in polite society and political career and everything else. I was like, and so I've signed myself into a very strange life. Yeah, it was quite challenging.
You have to. Oh, there's the power's back. All right. So, did she give you the casting couch experience?
No, no. She was quite professional. I think she was a lesbian. I don't think she was interested in. I think she did grope some of the female stars, but no. I was treated well. I didn't have to. No, I didn't have to do anything horrible to get the job. So yes, that was my
Here I
one
am
time
talking as. Yeah, Hans.
No, I was waiting for you to talk because I know there's a little bit of a lag. But let's go into the title and the topic of today. It says dangers of the black pill and how to thrive in the modern dating world. For our viewers, what is the black pill?
Well, I think most guys would be familiar at least with the idea of the red pill community or the red pill kind of ideologies. And the black pill is an extension of that, or let's say maybe the fatalistic end conclusion for a lot of men when it comes, and we're talking about single men and often guys of the younger generation. So guys who are in their teens, 20s, and certainly guys older as well, where for a lot of men, because the dating landscape has definitely changed, especially in the time that I've been in this industry since 2007, the zeitgeist, the ways that men and women get together, the prevalence of online dating, of Instagram, of social media in general, and also I would say probably even more importantly, just a whole bunch of cultural shifts in terms of economies, in terms of the isolation of men, in terms of how much time people are spending on screens, in terms of like post lockdown kind of still isolation, which a lot of the guys that I talk to or work with, the average avatar would be kind of 25 to 45 guys that are knowledge workers, highly intelligent, but often working in fields where they're isolated from women. So there's been well, how do I put this? Like, I remember when I first started in the dating industry, there was quite a lot of other companies, and there was no talk at all about cultural or gender war kinds of issues. It was really just
Mhm.
dudes who couldn't get laid, trying to figure out ways to get laid and
Mhm.
get relationships. And there was lots of different theories and lots of different techniques and ways that people would attempt to do this. But there was a globally, there was a really broad movement of guys who hadn't traditionally been successful with women, right? So they weren't the coolest, hottest jocks. All of us were kind of nerdy in our own ways. And there was this fresh kind of idea that, it's possible for a normal guy or an average guy or a guy that's not, super high in terms of looks, money, status, ways for him to actually be proactive and get results in terms of meeting strangers, getting women on dates, starting
Mhm.
relationships or whatever it is that they wanted. And what I've seen in the last 5-ish so years is that wave crashed. And
Mhm.
there seems to be now in terms of like the media that's out there for especially young guys is much more geared around red pill and black pill ideas, which, I mean, I'm going to have to be a little bit reductive just to kind of cut it down. But the general ideas being like, the analogy of the red pill is that there's a truth that we have previously ignored.
Mhm.
And when you take that pill, that the truth is that women, broad scope, are not, lovely princesses who are going to treat you right just because you're nice to them. And
Mhm.
that there are a bunch of likely behaviors that a woman is going to exhibit. And then there are these, which I don't necessarily agree with all these things. So, there's the
Mhm.
idea of hypergamy, which is that any woman given any better option will always move up to the next better option when it comes to men,
Mhm.
which I
Mhm.
don't actually agree with. But that, you know, uh, yeah, essentially that there is not really loyalty between men and women, particularly from the woman's side, and so
Mhm.
and lots of other extrapolations. But the black pill kind of idea is that all the red pill stuff is true, and unless you fit within certain metrics, you can't win, right? That there is
Mhm.
this idea that there is a 10% maybe of men on the market who monopolize the sexual attention of all desirable women, and
Mhm.
that, give or take percentages, whatever the actual percentage is, and that the rest of men are basically fucked because if they're not of a certain height, race, wealth, attractiveness level, and what is defined as being passable in that within the kind of black pill is quite extreme. It's really
Mhm.
looking at, 6-foot male models with six-figure bank accounts and or more, and that if you're not within that the game is stacked, you can't win, and therefore you should give up, right? Like that,
Yeah.
or therefore you should basically boycott women, right? So we see
Mhm.
that in these subgroups of the manosphere with the MGTOW, men go their own way, which is essentially I quit women, kind of to punish them, but because they're not worth the juice ain't worth the squeeze, because because inevitably she's going to cheat on you. And these are not my thoughts, but she's going to cheat on you. If you get married, she's going to take half your shit and destroy your life. She's going to nag and win. She's going to withhold sex from you. Like there's all of this difficult, hard work that's not worth it, and therefore if
Mhm.
it's much better for a man to not engage basically with women at all, except maybe under paid circumstances. If you're a red pill kind of dating or seduction guy, it might be worth going and picking them up and churning and burning through women, but that's about it. And then the rest of your life should be protecting your assets and keeping and working on your own thing, but not really engaging on any deep level with women. So
Gotcha.
that would be my brief explanation of red pill, black
That's
pill.
great. Yeah. And when you talk about the dangers of the black pill, are you then referring to the dangers of that situation or the dangers of the perspective of a perspective?
More on the perspective side of things. Like I'm not naive. I'm not blue pill in the sense that I know that humans are humans, and I know that there can be women who treat their men awfully and vice versa. That yes, infidelity and moving from one partner to a more attractive or a partner that's perceived to be better can happen. I know that, of course, plenty of marriages do end in divorce, and men can often get fucked over in terms of the legal system and so on. But I think it's really dangerous for, especially for younger guys, to be attaching an ideology to their sexuality, right? To be attaching like broad scope global trends, which may or may not be accurate. And even if they are accurate broad scope, it's cutting out the ability of the individual guy to go on his own journey and explore what relationships can be. And in a way, it robs him if he ascribes to this kind of ideology, especially when he doesn't have a lot of experience, because often this kind of cautionary tales are coming from older guys who've been burnt, right? Who've had rough situations with previous partners. And like, it would be the same as someone who's had 3 failed businesses that all ended in bankruptcy, telling all young guys never start a business because you'll end up bankrupt, right? Which there may well be advice on like how not to go bankrupt, and here's a bunch of mistakes that I made that you may want to avoid in order to try and make your business work, and understand that sometimes businesses do fail and you might need to have to start a new one. And there'd be lots of things you could learn from people who've had businesses that didn't work. But if they were told, don't even try, it's not even possible, then you're robbing, and that person believes you because they see you as a mentor, then you're robbing them of their chance to go on their own journey. So, if the analogy holds up, same kind of thing, that there is so much value, I believe, for a guy to go through the romantic journey, or the process of learning about himself in relationship to women and actually within relationships. And not all of it is fun. And there is an inevitability that if you're going to throw yourself out into the dating world, that you will be hurt. Absolutely. You are going to get your heart broken once or thrice in your life. It's quite possible that you may be cheated on by somebody at some point in your life, or you may cheat on somebody, or that there is the many layers of mess that can absolutely and will happen in some relationships for sure. But if we leave it at that, and we're like, okay, we're trying to protect ourselves from pain, then we're blocking off areas of our life. Now, there are some things where, like, there's plenty of things where I would say you could learn this or not as a hobby, right? I could learn to ski or not, and I don't really know how to ski. I went skiing once. Will I ever go again? Maybe, maybe not. If I don't have that in my life, but I have other skills and I have other hobbies, it's not going to, alter the net positive of my entire life. However, the interplay between men and women, I don't believe should be seen as a hobby or as an optional thing. if you're a straight guy and you've got, you're attracted to women, and you're thinking you can only see them possibly as sex objects that you could interact with in a paid circumstance, and then that'll be it, then you're going to be missing out on all of the pleasure, the love, the tragedy, the growing, the painful experiences, which will help you if you take the feedback from it, and then you can do an autopsy on the relationship and what happened, mean that you can go through your own personal growth, so that when you then couple up again, that hopefully you don't make the same mistakes, or you don't pick a partner who's full of red flags. But that it ultimately, in general, men and women do need each other in the broad scope. And so, if you're holding on to one of these hardcore ideologies, which are really adversarial, they're really seeing it as a gender war. And of course, there are broad scope issues that are happening in multiple societies related to the genders, but you don't want to be at war with the woman in front of you, right? With the woman that you're dating, with the woman that you're sleeping with. You want to be figuring out how you can actually have some type of partnership, and that can be negotiated, what that means, whether it's exclusive or whether it's open, or whether it's a casual thing, or it's friends with benefits. Like, there's lots of ways that you can actually engineer various types of relationships that can actually be really successful.
They did
it strikes as particularly dangerous for the young man to buy into, for example, the black pill ideology, because this is a time in a young man's life when he's afraid to go out into the world. He's afraid to take risks. And this is how he becomes a man. This is actually what he needs to do, is go out and confront it all. So to just be surrounded by, be subscribed to all these channels on social media and the internet that just feed all this black pill propaganda and negativity about women, man, what a tragedy! What a tragedy, because it can convince a young guy to not even go out there and stake his claim and dare to challenge the world and kind of make a man out of himself. It could influence him to just stay in his parents' basement all his life, which that really will kill his chances in the dating world, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because yes, well, there's not a dating market. There are millions of different dating markets intersecting throughout any given city, country, internationally, amongst different social scenes and so on. And when you have the idea that there is like a kind of a pyramid of the sexual market with Leonardo DiCaprio and some Saudi princes at the top, and then everyone funnels in, down until you've got this bottom 80% of men who are fighting for the lowest 20% of women, which is the kind of statistics which are thrown around, which are based mainly on analysis of dating apps like Tinder. Because that kind of data gives you a really skewed view on what the world is. Because on the apps, yes, the apps are fucked. They're really, in general, a really bad place and a bad way for a man to try and get his dating life happening. From the basic reasons that there is generally a 10-to-1 ratio. So there's 10 dudes for one girl on almost all the apps.
It's like walking into a nightclub full of men and a couple of women, and all these men are older and more experienced than you, and the women in there are mostly prostitutes. I don't know, women looking to take advantage of men. I mean, it's a terrible way to try to learn how to.
Yeah, and there are so many reasons why it's bad, because it gives you it's like a casino. It gives you the illusion that something is happening, and obviously these applications are designed to make money, not to create wonderful love affairs. And so they want men to stay on the apps as long as possible. They gamify it. They if you haven't been active for a certain amount of time, then they'll throw you a match to haul you back in. Like, it's a very sophisticated business model for bleeding lonely men of their cash. And I remember the first summer of Tinder was fucking amazing, because with that, I remember that was an awesome summer when all the girls were like, oh, let's try this. And it was a hookup fest. And then after that, it went downhill very quickly, because most of the girls were like, yeah, this isn't really the way I want to meet my boyfriend. Most of the time, women need to feel the presence of the man in order to be attracted to him. So if it's just a photo, unless you exactly look like her dreamboat guy, then you're just going to be passed over. There's so many reasons. And the other thing is, it's like, because what I teach essentially when it comes to dating in practicalities is I take guys out on the streets in all sorts of locations, on busy streets, in cafes and parks, on beaches, all sorts of places, put a microphone on them, and then push them to go and talk to women, and then listen in on the conversations, and then real-time feedback. And we work on different frameworks for conversation and for closing and for getting on dates and so on. And firstly, it is actually much more efficient, like in terms of the returns you get, even though the returns initially when a guy is first starting to learn how to, it's called cold approach, which I don't think is necessarily the best name. Doesn't sound very inviting, but that's what it's been called. So, rolling up to strangers. It is more efficient in terms of the returns that you get, even if it's 100 to 1, which it can be to start with, right? So a guy might need to go, if his social skills are low, if he's not super confident, if he feels anxious and awkward, then the returns can be quite low initially. They tend to scale up pretty quickly, but even if it is 100 to 1, that's a way better ratio than the thousands to 1 of what you might get on an app. And it means that when you do get on a date, it was a woman that you actually chose. And then there's all these really important correlating benefits, which is that when you learn to go and approach a stranger in whatever situation and work on creating rapport and releasing attraction and getting it moving somewhere, you're developing so many other skills. You're developing presence. You're developing the ability to read people's body language. You're developing your empathy. You're developing the projection of your masculine intent and desire. You're getting FaceTime with real women, which means that you are getting a bank of reference experiences to start to learn how to operate with a girl that's shy, with one that's really sassy, with one that's from a country that you're not familiar with one that doesn't speak your language. And so you start to develop all these much more higher level social skills, which and you have to face your fear, because one of the primary fears of men is that they are not worthy to women, right? I mean, the worthiness issue is something that comes up almost with every client that I work with, about women, also just inherently about themselves, because men are often told, or it's implied, or they pick it up, the idea that their only value is in their utility, right? In terms of how much they have and what they produce and what they are on their resume. And for so many men, they're not given any kind of validation or encouragement or care based around anything other than that. And so there is a kind of a chronic issue that for so many, I mean, almost, I've worked with, I don't know, thousands of guys from every single demographic, and underlying the approach anxiety, or the I don't know what to say or whatever, tends to be this ambient hum of I don't think I have anything that she's going to really want. So by actually going out and pushing yourself into these situations, you come up against those fears in real time, up against those awkward feelings, the anxieties, the having your identity and your ego punched holes in, and that can be really traumatic if you don't process it properly. But it can be extremely cathartic and really powerful if you do. And it gives and I'd done years of meditation, all sorts of personal development stuff. But once I started meeting women cold in this way, it was like I was going through exams over all of the spiritual work that I'd done. It was so intense to have to roll up to someone you found really attractive and present yourself, and to in real time be able to be aware and manage your state, and to have these breakthroughs where you could actually see that, oh, okay, I got rejected. And men have to learn how to be rejected, because rejection is going to be you're going to be rejected most of the times of any time that you put yourself out there in almost anything, until you reach a point where people are coming and chasing you. So, whether it's trying to get a job, or pitch something to somebody, or go and find a girlfriend, you are going to be rejected more often than not. I've been doing this for two decades now, and I'm really good at it. And still, if I go on the street, definitely more than 50% of the women I speak to are going to say no in some kind of way. But early on, I learned how to deal with that, not in a tough way, just to really have the mindset and the understanding that, of course, I'm not for everyone. Everyone's not for me. And also, no one has the authority really to reject me as a human being, especially not some random lady that I just met for 3 minutes. She doesn't know me. She is not qualified to judge me as a person. She's qualified to decide whether or not she wants to continue the conversation. And then to really see it in those ways, it starts to make you really bulletproof.
Interesting. Yeah. To go back to one of your earlier points about dating market, it's so accurate. There's really not one dating market. You see all these videos where they use these statistics, and it's more accurate if you're dealing with a girl who's always on Instagram and on the dating apps and that sort of a thing. But you can travel to a lot of places in the world where, Western culture is spreading all around the world pretty fast. But there are plenty of girls that don't have an Instagram account, that aren't on the dating apps, that don't want to meet men that way, that would rather, kind of have a genuine connection. And there are also all kinds of markets where women are attracted to different things. I can remember showing up in Brazil for the first time, and wherever I go, I like doing what the locals are, going where the locals are, not where the gringos are. And I remember getting on this bus for locals, going to the beach, and I started talking to a buddy that was with me, and instantly, all the girls on the bus, all the pretty girls on the bus, turn around and start fixing their hair. It's like, what's going on here? Well, it's because to them I sound like Brad Pitt. The accent is the same, and there's different magnetism between different people all around the world.
Yeah, and even, I mean, absolutely what we're talking about, kind of geo-maxing in terms of dating, which is something I've done for many years, traveled to countries where the women are more attractive on average, or where the dudes are less, or where, yeah, you might get some kind of, gringo star power or exotic points or whatever. And certainly that's something that, I've worked with a lot of guys to work out if they want to leverage locations for various reasons. But even so, because I mean, a lot of guys want to have that kind of lifestyle, or they want to try it out, and many won't. Many are going to stay in their home countries. But I think it's just important to note that, like, within any given city, whatever, a city with 1 million people, you've got X number of single women, and like, yes, she can go on Tinder and find some dick tonight, right? Like she can find a hookup almost instantly if she's in any way kind of attractive. And maybe any hypothetical woman will do that some number of times. But the reality is most women are still meeting their partners through their social circles or within physical proximity. And so really, rather than thinking, okay, I'm competing against every guy on Instagram or whatever. And for a woman that's front facing, beautiful on Instagram, who's doing the international kind of thing, that's a whole other world. And you can't compete in that world. And you certainly can't approach her in her DMs or like her photos or whatever, because you're completely irrelevant. I've been involved in lots of scenes where there is, models and bottles and yachts and that kind of stuff. And I've been in that life with other people paying for it. I wasn't paying for it. And yeah, then it's all status game, right? Like it really is smoke and mirrors, and that's a whole very, very specific niche thing, which does require you to have access to certain social worlds, to have certain levels of resources behind you, and so on. But the reality is, like, the amount of women that are doing that is minuscule. There are so many extremely attractive, lovely girls who their social world, like, let's say she's 23 and she went out to clubs when she was 18 to 20, and she was like, okay, I did that. That's boring. I got the shiny things or the free drinks or whatever, but that's not my thing now. And now she's 23 and she has a fairly small social circle, and she has a job, and she doesn't she's past her party thing, or she wasn't someone who was really into that, or she was more into some kind of niche rockabilly thing or hipster thing or whatever. And so then really, what are you competing with? You're just competing with the options that she has in her life right now. And almost always the man that goes is able to meet her in real life and show her what he's like in action is going to beat even a much more, let's say, technically attractive guy online. So yeah, it's like, it's a thing where finding out, like, rather than having assumptions about, okay, this type of woman's out of my league, or she must have lots of options. She may or may not. But my statement to students, whenever they come up with any of those kind of excuses, they're like, oh, she looks like she's going to be bitchy, or she looks like she's got a boyfriend, whatever, is go and find out, right?
Yeah.
And allow yourself to be surprised by the fact that some women are going to find you attractive, and that women do, in general, like, the things that they find attractive in men are much more to do with the way that he makes her feel, the way his presence affects her, as opposed to exactly the cut of his jaw or his height. And because, like, women really make their decisions, and we all do actually, but like women particularly make their decisions emotionally. And so if you have the ability to project good, clear intent, to touch her well, to talk to her in a way where she feels seen and heard without being too simping or too much of a pushover, if you have the ability to flirt and challenge her a little bit, and most importantly, to pull the fucking trigger, then very likely she's going to say yes to your request to ask her out. Most men spend especially like their teens, 20s, 30s, they're figuring out their dating life by using all sorts of indirect, ineffective strategies to try and meet women, right? Whether that's trying to be friends with a girl for ages, or trying to finagle your way into some kind of social scene, hoping that proximity is going to make it happen, and so on. Like, I was a pretty social musician for many years, and I used my band to get to meet women, and I did meet some girls. But the day that I started going and just rolling up to strangers, the quality of women and the speed at which I was getting on dates, it blew everything out of the water. I'd been trying all of this social circle stuff, everything else, and the ability to just roll over and say, "Hey, you look fucking amazing," have a chat with her, and then say, "You know what? I find you really interesting and you're super cute. I want to take you out," is extraordinarily powerful, and it's timeless, right? Like even though these days the idea that most couples are going to meet online, and many of them will, but women are always going to prefer to see the balls in action, to feel the bravery of a man who's actually going over there and asking her out and showing her that he wants her, doesn't need her, but he wants her, and he means it, and he's going to make a move. That's, one of the things that can shift a girl from being just on the fence to be like, yeah, okay, it's a dude, to when you say, all right, you're super cute, I like your vibe, I want to take you out, not let's exchange numbers, or not let's maybe we could hang out sometime, or not here's the, oh, you're into that music too, maybe we could go and see the concert together, like any excuse to tell her I want, I'm going to. And of course, we need to be able to be calibrated and adjust to her needs as well. But it's super powerful, super sexy.
Hans?
Yeah, in a way, the online is an avoidance, and it's an indirect way, and even the showing up itself, just the showing up, is powerful, and is the opposite of what Black Pill is teaching, and maybe even at a larger scale, and given the topic of this summit, it is a big rite of passage for men to show up that way. It is a big rite of passage to learn to take responsibility for it and not act the victim, not say, oh, society is like this, it's the game is skewed, there's nothing, but take responsibility and say, I'm going to create the world I want to live in. I want to have the relationship that I want, I'm going to go for the women that I want and create the relationship that I like. So yeah, I'm a big believer also, and have been standing for what you call the cold approach as one of the most powerful platforms for growth, transformation, and a real rite of passage.
Yeah, because it really is necessary. And look, the reality is, for a lot of guys, they just didn't get the organic FaceTime that some guys and lots of women get. Like if you're a cute, relatively social female, between the ages of 16 and 25, the number of impressions of dealing with men coming to try and start something with you will be thousands, right? Like if she goes out to a house party on a Friday night, she's going to have 12 interactions, and many of them with guys that are maybe older, more sophisticated, and so she's going to learn pretty quickly how to navigate the social world. Some guys have that. Some of the, the cooler dudes or the guys that worked in cafes or bars or there's various reasons why you might kind of pick that up, or you had a lot of women around you growing up or in your social circle. And then there's so many guys who went to boys' schools, or, were into interest where there weren't women around, or were shy, and which just kind of passed over in those formative years in primary and high school. And so if you are in that situation, it's really important, if you want to catch up in terms of like being able to keep pace with women who are in general much more skilled in these kinds of social realms, then you need to clock numbers quickly. And the most efficient ways that I've seen to do that is like, I used to be like, okay, I'd get in high school, I'd go to a party once in a while, and there'd be 10 dudes and 6 girls, and we'd be hovering around, and like I might end up getting 5 minutes of FaceTime with that girl maybe, and then nothing might happen for weeks. It's like going to the gym and doing one rep of something and then expecting to be, that you're going to see gains. You need a consistency and you need it's much better to do it all in one kind of intense burst. And I think it's something that at some point most guys should commit to. Okay, I need to meet 5 strangers, 10 strangers a week. And look, there are multiple ways to do that. I'm not saying that only running up and down the busy streets of a major metropolitan city is the only thing to do. Generally, I recommend kind of an investment spread where you are doing that, right? Like where you go and meet. I recommend around a dozen single women a week, and that you're also working on constructing a type of lifestyle where there are going to be women involved in it, not even necessarily to pick them up, but because when you have a decent social circle, and it doesn't need to be extravagant, it means having a couple of guys, a couple of girls, and you guys do stuff together that's fun, that then you can invite women into that. And you can, whether that's throwing house parties or having a picnic or going to a trivia night or whatever, then drawing women into those social circles, because once a woman sees you in action, when she sees you being respected and liked by people, then typically that can massively speed up the seduction process, as opposed to just being about you and her, which can also work. And then, like, a conservative investment in some speculative something, put 3% in crypto or whatever, you can do the online thing as like once a week I'm disciplined about it and I spend half an hour swiping, and then maybe I get something out of it. Because sure, people can, I've met women online before. I'm not purist about that, but that would be a much more intelligent spread to be kind of going, 40, 20% or something in terms of your effort if you're a single guy trying to actually get women in your life that you're choosing. And that's the major difference. Like the biggest thing I got, I think, in terms of my personal sense of worth was knowing that at some point that I will never be with any woman unless I've chosen her, as opposed to this is as good as I got, or this woman chose me, or that's the only match I got, so that's what I'll have to take, which is pretty demoralizing when it means that you're not going to be with the partners that you wish to be, and it also means that you didn't actually get to be able to express your desire and your masculinity and to be able to go for what you want and get it. Whereas when you only approach the types of women that you really want to get, if you get good enough, it means that eventually one of them is going to be your girlfriend, which is kind of an awesome thing, I think.
Mm-hmm. James, we talked about the black pill, this kind of worldview and beliefs that can have men, especially young men, give up. What would be like the James Marshall pill? What are the beliefs or the mindset, the frame that someone could take on that could have them go out into the world? I mean, you've articulated a lot of it here today, I think, but is there, I don't know, kind of a summary of a perspective that would be far better for men to have?
Certainly. So, I mean, I would be saying, as I do say to many guys, firstly, it's absolutely worth it and it's absolutely doable. So it's not like some crazy moonshot goal, because it's not like there's a finite resource of single women, right? Like and it's not accurate to say that 20% of men are monopolizing all of the attention of women. It's true that like players may be monopolizing the period in a woman's life when she's going through crazy hookups, right? Like, and one player might have 6 girls on some kind of rotation, and those 6 girls in there, like, I'm going to go and bang a bad boy in between my boyfriend because I had a breakup, and then that's that little phase that I'm going in. Then sure, he may be able to monopolize that group of women for that 6 months, but it's not true that there's this finite resource which is just distributed completely unfairly, and that there's no way that you can win. So yeah, I would be looking at being a bit more, I think, actually rational about this, and understanding that it is absolutely possible, and that and really coming to terms with or understanding what is it that you are going to get out of this process. And understanding that yes, there is going to be hardship and difficulty and awkwardness, and most men will never do this, right? Like, I think I saw the stats the other day, or something like 45% of millennials have never talked to a woman unless they were spoken to first. Right? So you've got, like something around half of the young men of this generation have never gone over to a girl at a party or a street or anything and said hi. So I think on the dark side of things, you do need to understand that you can choose to opt out of the sexual market, and not taking action means that you have chosen that. Like it is a passive choice to remove yourself from the market. On the positive side, if you the step from that totally inactive single to being in the game is really 10 steps and saying hello to somebody, right? Like the initial, like, to actually talk to a woman and pick her up is technically extremely easy, in the sense of the things that you need to do are not complicated, not physically strenuous, not dangerous, right? So there's a series of relatively simple steps that I walk over, I smile, I wave, I say hi, then I mean, there's lots of different ways that you can do it, but if I give a tiny skeleton, I tell her why I'm there, I give her some kind of compliment, I ask her her name, I find out what she's doing today, I tell her something about myself, and maybe I do one cheeky thing where I challenge her, or I flirt with her a bit, and then I run out of shit to say, and I say, all right, well, I got to go. You're super cute. I like you. I'd like to take you out. Can I have your number? Right? Like, that's easy, technically. Right? And there's a lot more advanced things and nuanced ways that you can play with your communication and your conversation, and there's layers and levels to it. But on a fundamental level, like, learning that skill set is relatively simple. The difficult part about it is the mental game, right? It's what's happening internally, and that's the thing that I think is absolutely worth going through, because through that difficulty of dealing with rejection, of having your sense of, like, the identity that you want somebody else to perceive you as, having that shattered, is a really necessary and healthy thing, because without that, you are going to be literally retreating your entire life, right? Like, you're going to be, any situation where you come up against pressure, internal pressure and awkwardness, you're going to have created the habit pattern where you want to resolve pressure, which is natural to do, but you resolve it by retreating, as opposed to resolve it by navigating and moving over that wave into the next one. So yeah, those would be some of the mindsets that I carry with me and try to impress upon guys, and also that it gets really fun and it's awesome to have sexy girls in your life, and you're going to get large amounts of the joy that you're going to get in your life is going to be from most of it's going to be from your interpersonal relationships of various types: family, friends, lovers. Right? Like, most of what we perceive as happiness or satisfaction is not going to be from how much you earn or even what achievements you have. Like, although those things can be satisfying, we're social creatures, we're sexual creatures, and until the AI sex robots are so realistic that we don't need humans anymore, we need each other.
Yes. Even health. They did a Harvard study of 75 years long to determine what is most important in terms of our health and happiness. And number one, more important than anything else, all the other things just were insignificant compared to this one, was quality relationships.
Yeah.
The relationships you have with your loved ones, with your family, with your community, with your woman. It's number one determinant of your happiness and your health, and so it's worth it to invest in it, to train in it. And some of that training could be approaching. I swear by it too. I think it's fantastic and a great message that you're giving to guys. And I wonder how much of the work that you have to do, or that you're doing, is getting them to see this different perspective.
Well, once I take a guy out, like, within a half a dozen approaches, usually he's had some really good experiences. Like within, because I mean, it depends on the city, it depends on the guy, but if he approaches 10 women and I'm giving him feedback, so he's not repeating the same mistakes over and over again, within like that tiny focus group, he's going to have one or two, on average, one or two ladies who are just dismissive and maybe rude. And then he's going to have one or two that are really open and really friendly. And then he's going to have 6 or so that are like, okay, I'm talking to a dude. And so within, you know, an hour or 2 or 3 of us going and doing this, he's seen that, oh, holy shit, I have spoken to women that I found really attractive and they were nice. Some of them were really nice to me, or I had a bit of fun with them, or I had a cool interaction, whether or not he got the number or the date or whatever. And the number of times I've just seen light bulbs go off where you can see them going, what have I been doing all my life? That, you know, that was not nearly as bad as I thought it was. Or when it was as bad as we thought it was, it's kind of funny. Like it was just like, sometimes, yeah, occasionally a girl says fuck off or just blanks you. And it feels a bit weird and awkward. And if you use some practical meditation stuff, you can scan through it, you can release it out of your body, and you can see that you're actually, it didn't hurt you. But then the positive reference experiences and results start stacking really quickly in general. And so then you can see, okay, yeah, this is totally worth it. There's one other thing I want to add, which is also like another reason why it's so important to have this skill is that it means that you can get out of relationships when they're no longer serving you. And that because the reality is you're going to be single multiple times in your life, probably. Very unlikely you're going to marry your childhood sweetheart these days. If you do, all power to you. But so many, both men and women, but men that I work with, I often ask them, okay, like the longest relationship that you're in, how many years extra did you stay in it when you should have left? And, you know, and usually it's somewhere like 50% or more of the relationship time, they say, I probably should have left after year 2 instead of year 6. And I've heard, you know, horrific ones where guys have just stayed in relationships for literally decades when they were completely unsatisfied or when it was toxic or when it was clearly time to go. And they stay because of the fear of being alone and of having scarcity and knowing that when they go back out into the dating market, they have no idea what they're doing. So, you know, one of the benefits of having cold approach seduction in your pocket, that's something you know you can functionally do, is that if you're with a woman, you have a relationship, and after 6 months, you're like, the sex is not good anymore. She's not treating me with respect. I try and talk to her and we try and figure out some stuff. It's not working. I don't like this anymore. Okay, I now have the directness that I went into this relationship with, where I went over to her and said, excuse me, lady, I'm gonna have that same attitude and bravery of directness to end it as cleanly as possible. It can't always be clean, but to end it fairly cleanly, and then to know that, cool, I can go out and actually start dating again, which is potentially going to save men years, if not decades, of being in the wrong relationship.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I love that perspective. James, I want to ask you about how men can find you online, and also about the project you're working on now, or the course that you developed around sexual mastery. And before I do, I just want to remind everyone that this is day 7 of the Calling All Men Summit. We're almost done. If you want to own the full library of nearly 70 great men and mentors of men like James, like Hans, and you also want to get some video trainings and attend some live trainings with us and join our group, do that over at the website, callingallmensummit.com. Maybe Hans can post a link there. But also, we're going to see if we can talk James into coming back and doing a short teaching or training with our community when we all get online and hooked up. There'll probably be a couple hundred of us in that community, and get an experience of working with him. And yeah, James, would you tell us how can we find you online, and what is this course on sexuality that you're working on?
Sure. So yeah, in general, to find me, my website is thenaturallifestyles.com, THE naturallifestyles with an S.com. I've got a pretty big YouTube channel, which is also, you look up The Natural Lifestyles, you'll find me there. Same with all other social media. So the course that I've released recently, so I've been teaching these hands-on, very high-end, expensive sex workshops for a number of years, and through last year, basically, I spent many months locked in my studio with some sexy ladies and filmed the online version of this live course. So it's called the Master Lover Toolkit, and it's basically a 5-week program that demonstrates and explains in very, very explicit detail all the things that I think that a guy needs to become really competent and excellent in bed. So I've broken things down into both technical components, from everything from kissing, undressing, foreplay, fingering, spanking, choking, anal sex, blowjob training, like basically everything that a dude wants to experience in bed, and then showing you how to do that in very granular detail, as well as looking deep into the psychology of dominance. So how to learn to express dominance in a really healthy and powerful way. So it's not, a lot of people may mistakenly think that dominance or BDSM is abusive or is like having power over somebody. But the type of dominance that I teach guys is really leadership, right? So like how to hold space, create scenarios, and lead a woman through an exciting, amazing sexual adventure, right? All fits under the umbrella of dominance or sensual dominance. And a lot of guys feel quite repressed or shy or unsure of how to express themselves sexually in like a healthy and powerful way. So I dive a lot into that, as well as looking into the flip side of female sexual psychology, which is complex and weird and wonderful and confusing for guys. And so I try to demystify that and explain and show how it is that in general, because everyone has different patterns, but in general patterns, what's going to really turn a woman on and how you're going to turn her into your willing sex kitten. So yeah, it's a pretty awesome course. It's just like we're just a little bit late because the launch of it finished this week. But if you go, I think maybe if you go to masterlovertoolkit.com, you can sign the opt-in, and we can, if anyone begs me, I'll let them in on the course. So yeah, that's that in a nutshell.
James, what an adventurous life you've been leading, and I'm sure thousands of men and their wives or girlfriends have you to thank for helping them to become greater leaders, greater men, more fully alive. It's a beautiful thing. I look forward to doing one of your trainings one day, and
Awesome.
I look forward to having you come and do a little teaching or training for our men as well. Thanks so much for taking your time and energy on this Sunday to join with us here and being part of the Calling All Men Summit. And we look forward to talking to you more. Hans, do you want to add in a word?
No, I'm looking forward to him accepting your invitation to teach training. I would like to be there.
Looks like I have no choice. I have been absolutely manipulated, and I submit. Yes, happy to do that. And thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Michael.
All right. Peace out.